So I'm interviewing Professor Woolson about Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. The first question is, what do you think the book suggests about racism in the U.S. in the 1950s?
Oh, well, I don't know how much how much you want me to say, but I think there's a lot there. I think that a lot of parts were very interesting in that respect, particularly the account of Henrietta's growing up. Well, that wasn't really in the 50s. That was earlier than that.
Yeah.
But Skloot goes back there, and not much has changed, so it's pretty much the same, right? So you see the vestiges of slavery, right? That you have the white folks, who living on one side of the tracks, and you have the black folks living on the other side of the tracks, and how much poverty there is still there,
and the lack of education.
The lack of education, and and that there's very little. The white people don't want to acknowledge that they're biologically related to the black people, right? So there's a lot of segregation and that kind of thing. And you can see that too in the poverty and the lack of real opportunities that the Lacks family had, her own children. We can see, again, that's not exactly the 50s either. That's more in the contemporary world, but you can see how racism continues even into the present time.
That's like one
of
of
the stories of their stories of her children.
Oh, most definitely. Even though the moment is 1950s, it does go into today, and it does show that even though Henrietta Lacks changed the scientific community, her children still don't even have health insurance.
Exactly.
So it's the poverty. The time has changed, but it hasn't changed too much.
Right.
So
but that, I want to say, is not. I've thought a lot about how that ties into race, and I'm not sure certainly there's a lot about race in there, but I was very disturbed, and this isn't about race, but I was very disturbed to find out that, that medical researchers can take, when you go to the doctors, for example, and you give them a blood sample or a tissue sample, they can use it and do whatever they want with it and profit from it, and you don't have a right to any of it. So in that sense, I don't think what they did to her, taking her cells and using them, while I find it egregious, I also don't think that it's specifically a race thing.
Yes, and another point actually on that topic is that they didn't say that her cancer treatment would leave her infertile, which is something that she wouldn't have agreed to. So that's just another point.
Well, that's another issue that might be tied to race, because the book talks about the Tuskegee experiment and about the abuses of the daughter. The characters in the story are talking about their fear of the night doctors. That they think that Johns Hopkins is coming and stealing people to experiment on them and stuff. And that has a long history. That was definitely going on. Tuskegee was going on during the 50s. You know about Tuskegee.